Oh, I think we're sharing. Awesome. So I'm just getting set up. I'm going to draw a mermaid as my inking warm-up. I picked up some new fresh nibs, so that's going to be great. And where else do I want to stream that? Okay. I'm just going to pull up a playlist for myself, and I will drop a link to the playlist in my chat. Thanks for joining. I need to make myself some more playlists. You know, we're just going to go with the shamelessly catchy power metal playlist again. You may notice that it is 95% Rhapsody. That's the point. Hopefully that's clickable. That looks clickable. Yeah. So that is a power metal playlist. So one thing I've been trying to do more these days is like make things the right size so I can maybe frame them later. So I bought these 5x7 cards. I'm just going to quickly trace one. So I have some sort of plan. And then I will pencil in a mermaid. So while I'm here, hanging out, mermaiding, please, I'd love to know who's hanging out. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. I will be sticking my head over to see who's talking. If you are new to my streams, I'm Rachel Kahn. I'm a fantasy illustrator. Let's see if we can get that whole thing in there. There we go. Almost. Let's see what we can do. There we go. Yeah. All right. Most of it. Can't see quite the very bottom, but that'll be all right. Yeah. Trying to think of like a cool mermaid to make. Like some cool creatures I've seen in the past. I've been watching a lot of the Okeanos live streams. And one of the ones I really like that we saw a few of were some ratfish. They're real strange looking. They come in some pretty nice patterns. So I'm just pulling up an image now. I'll drop a link in the chat if you want to see what a ratfish is. They're pretty great. Oh wow, there's a great example of what the hell their teeth look like up there in the Google image search. But I'm just going to pick one image as a reference so I can see all of the tail fins, as it were. I'm going to make that real big on my screen for a second. So I'm going to pull that over. Now I can see both. Alright, ratfish are real weird. Let's get a quick drawing done so I can get to the inking stage of this warm-up. I've seen some great people, some people do some great things where they do sketch timber and they get themselves 30 beautiful pencil sketches, and they do Inktober. And they do 31 beautiful ink drawings, 30 of which, of course, are on those pencil sketches. All right. I like, one of the things I like about the ratfish is that it's very horizontal. So often when you see it, it's sort of like soaring, floating over the ocean floor, like some sort of plane. There's so many beautiful fins on the back of it too. One of the things I'm curious about with mermaids in general is sort of like how you go from a human figure, which just to, you know, we have sort of like, we're wide, but if you look at us from above, we're sort of like a head and a rectangle. And then we have arms sticking out, sort of legs, feet come out the front. Pretty flat this way. Whereas a fish, you have sort of its head. And then you have its body that might be even more vertical. So that switch from sort of the, you know, this sort of contour over to this wide shoulder figure. I like that. That's very curious to me. Hope you guys can see the pencils all right. Click over and make sure you can. Yeah, that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. Video. Just checking something. Okay, get some work done, Rachel. Okay. The other thing that's interesting about ratfish is they have giant, really spooky eyes. And really hilarious mouths. I have to admit, I don't think a lot about mermaids, but I've been seeing such amazing art that it's very inspiring. And I thought, oh, the job I'm working on right now, there's no mermaids. There are some sea creatures. There are some very interesting creatures. But I would like to do something more sea creature-y as a warm-up, and mermaid is a pretty convenient thing to do. Yeah. So this is just this is actually a 3mm Staedtler micro, Mars micro mechanical pencil. So that's been really fun to use. It's very, very fine line. And what it prevents me from doing is pressing too hard, because it will stop working pretty much immediately. The other wonderful thing about these fish is that they have beautiful spots. And the other thing that fish, especially things like ratfish, these deep water fish, they have a lot of sensory organs we don't. So they have these sort of sensory midline along their bodies that goes all the way along their bodies. I'm not sure actually if ratfish have this as much as some other fish down there, but these are sensory organs that go the length of their body that allow them to feel the movement in the water around them, the changes in water pressure. Like very, very accurately. And I feel like that's really neat. Just taking a look at my ref. One of the other wonderful things I've been seeing in the Okeanos things are these beautiful brittle stars that look very Lovecraftian. So that might be something I do tomorrow for a warm up. I'm working on this inking project for another few days at least. Probably gonna wrap it up early next week. So I'm gonna keep that moving. But right now I'll just do some black coral, which is actually all white as far as I can tell. In the background. Get these guys some basalt pillars to hang out on. So they live near an underwater volcano. That's pretty fun. All right, let's get to the inking stage. Just put on some hand cream. And what nib should I use? I got a couple of nice new nibs. Most of them are nibs I've used before, some capacity or other. I immediately dropped one of my nibs into my ink well. That was fun. All right. So I've got 101 that I've already tested out. I've got a 56 I really liked. Got a 22, so that means there's a 99 somewhere that I've never tried before. Try that. So this is a hunt drawing nib, number 99. If you guys can see that pretty good. And I'm using Sumi ink, Yasutomo brand. You can tell this well-loved bottle. And I have my ink in a little paint well so that it's not too deep. And I can get a nice, I just gently tap it to the bottom and I get a nice loaded nib. So, oh, this is a very flexible nib. Oh, I can't use any pressure with this nib. That's exciting. So I'm just gonna show you on my test page what's going on. So it has very expressive line. And like, I don't know if you can see what's going on there. Those tines are splitting, which will prevent it from doing anything. So it's interesting. Just make sure I've got enough ink on it. Okay, I could make use of this. Let's try it out. Someday I'm going to expand beyond the hunt nibs available in my local art supply store. But today is not that day. Alright, so most important things obviously are the central figures. Let's start with that. Just gotta quote three. Alright, check that further. Start my inking. So yeah, this one, it really helps to like have it as vertical as possible, which is interesting. So I'm making this on some Canson watercolor paper because it turns out it's not super great for watercolor, which sucks. But it's got a nice surface texture, and I think it'll work well for this inking approach because it'll grab the ink off the brush pretty well. All right, well, it's coming along. Are those eyes big enough and creepy enough? So I think it's one of my favorite mythical underwater creatures. And one of the ones that really stood out to me, there's a trilogy of books by Lee Brackett about a planet called Skaith. And Skaith is a dying planet. It's situated around a dying sun. And the premise of it is that it's an incredibly ancient human civilization. And so it has a deep history, like a deep time kind of human history. And one of the things that happened on it was people got really excited about mutating themselves genetically. So you can guess when this was written. And so they, different communities experimented with different things and ended up as these sort of very different creatures. And most of them are still very communicative and participate in the larger planet. But one of the isolationist communities essentially turned themselves into seal people. So that's another one I might play with. I'll look up Lee Brackett's exact description for them. For that, not only were they seal people, they had sort of abandoned language as we use it, moved on to something totally different that worked underwater, and almost never communicated with land humans at all. And so they become these sort of monsters, but they're not evil, they're just dramatically different, which I find very interesting. I believe they do kill and eat people at some point in the book, and that simplifies the moral quandary a little bit, as is the want with pulp fiction from that era. Oh, starting to spray a little bit of ink around. This is a sensitive nib. Excuse me. All right, well, we have the main outline, which is nice. Seems to be a quiet time for streaming at this hour. You know, if I was really good, I'd be here and I'd be streaming bright and early in the morning. I'll try that maybe tomorrow. See how early I can get this stream started. All right. Let's get these basalt things in. I guess you guys can't see this exact thing, so I'll try and do it quickly. All right, gonna reposition this a little bit so we can all see what the heck I'm doing. So hexagonal basalt pillars are a thing that are developed, I guess. It's maybe a better word. When you have cooling lava and it obviously, as it cools, it changes density. So you get these sort of isolated towers and pillars, and I think if you've ever sort of like had cookies too close to each other on a tray, you can see how you get this sort of patterning, especially depending on the way you've organized the cookies when they butt up against each other and sort of fill in the space around them. And so for the basalt, what it does is it forms these hexagonal patterns. which I think are very beautiful and spooky. And you can probably see them if you look at something like the Giant's Causeway, I think is the huge basalt pillars over in Ireland. So obviously, just like any stone, it's going to get eroded and worn. They might not be perfectly flat on top anymore, but I think they could be interesting to see. They definitely are things that appear underwater. So we have this sort of silt filling up some of these guys. I'm going to draw one of these beautiful corals. Still on the screen. Excuse me. Let's see. Well, just checking my ref. This is a very tricky pen for me to use. It's been fun though. One of the things that I like about a lot of these hunt drawing nibs is they actually are very responsive, but you have to very consciously try to thicken or thin the line. I'm actually going to reduce the size of this coral for the inking because I don't really want it to be quite this complex. Right. Let's go in and give this fella some fine markings. And of course a white belly. Guys, I didn't even make these big enough. Or, ooh, it's too late. Well, probably do another ratfish one at some point then. I did make these the right size, but there are some huge, beautiful pectoral fins that the ratfish actually like extends out like airplane wings, which I assume are sort of stabilizing it as it's scouring the bottom of the ocean. Just adding a little tone. Gonna need some more ink. I'm just going to draw in these border lines, and then we're going to call this puppy done. And by puppy, I mean weird mermaid. Part of a large group of weird mermaids hanging out on the internet this month because it's May. If you enjoyed this, thanks so much for watching. My name is Rachel Kahn. I am an illustrator. I do a lot of fantasy illustration. I do a lot of sword and sorcery comics. I like working in traditional media, and I also do a fair amount of digital work. You can learn more about me at portablecity.net, or if you enjoy, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can follow me as Portable City on Twitter and Instagram. And you can support me and my illustration work on Patreon at Portable City. Alright, I'm calling this guy done. Thank you so much for joining me while I drew this mermaid for Mermaid. Hope you have a great day. I'm going to get into my freelance work, so I'll see you hopefully tomorrow for another inking warm up. Bye!